Hello there and welcome. And this is going to be the first video I do in a series of videos on emotional intelligence, a really important topic to be discussing. And in particular, we'll start with what does it mean to be emotionally intelligent? That's where we'll begin in this video. All right, so emotional intelligence, we not only need to define it, we really want to be talking about what it means in certain areas of your life, because it's ultimately why it's important and why we're going to be talking about it, why it gets so much press. So what is it? It's really the ability to manage and understand your own emotions as well as other people's emotions, to understand what they are feeling. That is what we're kind of referring to as emotional intelligence. It's going to impact several areas of your life. It's going to impact your health. It's going to impact your relationships and leadership qualities, family dynamics. All of these things get impacted by what emotional intelligence is, and that's what we want to delve into. So let's begin. Our emotions shape our decision-making ability. So the emotion of stress, when we're in that, interferes with our ability to make decisions. We often are reacting to our emotions, right? Emotion of fear, anger. We react out of those emotions, and the decision making gets interfered with, so we might say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing. We've all experienced that. In situations of high stress, it can be really, not exaggeration, the difference between life and death. For example, you probably all know the story of Sully, Captain Sully, the flight in New York, wintertime, that was forced to make a crash landing, right? So he's got a plane full of people, and he says himself, fear began to come up. He could feel it, but he took control of his emotions, forced fear aside, realized he had to focus, amped up that adrenaline, crash landed on the Hudson River. They were able to save 150 some odd lives. Mark Devine, the founder of Unbeatable Mind, talks about as a Navy SEAL, when they was doing skydive training, got entangled with one of his teammates' chutes, started plummeting to the ground. Fear popped up. His training kicked in. A couple breaths, grabbed his knife, cut himself free, began plummeting again, pulled his back up, chute just in time, hit the ground really hard, but he survived, no injuries. That is emotional intelligence, because it's showing people who can manage their emotions to make better, sometimes even life-saving decisions. Emotional intelligence has a huge impact on relationships. And when people can connect with somebody on an emotional level, it does wonders for that connection on a human relationship and has long-lasting impact. And I'll tell you a situation. When I was 16 years old, I was a coach running a police athletic league baseball program. It was a program I grew up going to from the time I was 6 years old till I aged out at 12. And I used to go back after that and just kind of volunteer my mornings time helping out, because I loved baseball, neighborhood thing. And what else is a middle school kid going to do in the morning who loves baseball? So I was showing up at the field all the time. When I was 16, they gave me the job and said, here, why don't you run the field where you grew up playing, Cleveland Field. And there's a kid who showed up first day, and I don't know, he had the great smile. He's 5 years old. So this is the Pee Wee division. We don't, in those times, we aren't doing T-ball. We're pitching to them. And I got pretty darn good at hitting the bat with the ball, right? But with this kid, it just wasn't happening. Now, what was so special about him? He had a club hand, and he had a really bad limp. There was something obviously handicapped, physically handicapped. And he just couldn't connect with the ball. Sorry, here, we'll try next inning, right? Day after day, he just couldn't make contact with the ball. Smiling, coming right back up. This is going to be the time. Finally, he hit the ball. Little dribble from home plate. The catcher comes out, throws it wildly first, and little Bobby limps down, gets to first base, and he just starts jumping for joy. His teammates rush him like he just won the game for them, like it was a walk-off hit. They, all of them in that moment, expressed emotional intelligence that just, it moves me to this day when I think about it. That was a beautiful example of kids demonstrating emotional intelligence and its impact relationally. So again, emotional intelligence is that ability to manage your own emotions. So stress, without it, you get stuck in the emotions of stress and you become reactive, right? You react in ways that you wouldn't normally react. You say things you wouldn't normally say because the stress is taken over, the emotions are taking over, it's interfering with your decision-making process. It is hurting you physically, and then you are also kind of not making those decisions. You become reactive. You're kind of becoming enslaved by the emotion. So lack of that emotional intelligence, that ability to manage your own emotions with stress, it can really impact you in so many ways on a negative side. Great leaders have high emotional intelligence. They have that ability to just draw people to them in large part because of their own ability to control their own emotions, but also to understand the people they're dealing with. And there's a famous story that's taught in like business schools. It's probably still taught in college. It was definitely taught when I was in college, but it was about, I don't remember what it was, the senior Watson or his son. I think it was his son who was running IBM. And the way the story goes, the story is told, is that a young executive was entrusted with a project, and he made some bad decisions that cost the company millions of dollars. And this is like in the 1950s or so, when $1 million meant something. And he was called into the office, and he was ready. He had his resignation letter. He's prepared to resign. He's kind of beat himself down, right? And the CEO Watson, said, "Why would I accept your resignation? I just spent $1 million educating you. No, put that away." Right? In that moment, he exhibited tremendous leadership under emotional intelligence, changed that young man's career, sent him on a whole new trajectory because he understood how to build him up, help him reframe the situation, and that changed the direction of a life because the leader understood the emotions that were going on, understood the lesson that needed to be taught, and gave that reframe and that other chance. That's why it's studied in business schools. Emotional intelligence impacts families in many ways. When it's not present, families can be dysfunctional. There's a lot of conflict. There's, people's feelings can get hurt. They can get separated, sadly, right? Long-term relationships can be broken. The movie Home Alone, sure, I hope many of you have seen it. It's a wonderful movie. But in that movie, little Kevin, who's the one who's left home alone, has a neighbor, an older man who lives by himself. And the neighborhood rumors that he's kind of psychotic and he's murdered people and all these things that aren't true by any stretch of the imagination. And Kevin meets him on Christmas Eve at a service because Kevin's, he was left home alone, right? But the man tells him that he's been estranged from his son, and the only way he gets to see his granddaughter is by coming to the church Christmas Eve so he could see her sing. And Kevin asks him, "Why don't you just call? Why do you just not reach out to him?" Fear gets in the way. his emotions get in the way. That's the story. And then Kevin tells him a little story. And at the end of the movie, Kevin's looking out the window after his family has come home. And he's looking at the man whose son has now come, who had been estranged with years, with his granddaughter, and they're reconciling. That emotional intelligence that the old man finally exhibited, he learned from the little Kevin. But by learning it, he was able to then reconcile a family dynamics that had been hurt for the lack of the emotional intelligence when they were younger. It's a wonderful little depiction of the power of emotional intelligence on healing in families. So as we conclude this video, I always encourage you to subscribe to our channel, but I also encourage you to check out one of our webinars. In particular, our webinar that is emotional hygiene, goes right along with this topic. So if you register for that today, check that out, then come back and watch the rest of this series.